Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's get at it. Manny Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez, match number 4. Now, let me just say this. In my opinion, this is a matchup between an athlete with faster hands, faster feet, better reflexes, right? Who can move around the ring better with the bigger punch. Manny Pacquiao versus a technician who's playing angles, who anticipates punches in advance and is not relying on his reflexes or athleticism to the same degree. Now, let me just say a couple of things. First, with regard to athletes, the legs are the first to go, right? That's an old boxing adage that I actually believe in. Manny Pacquiao is going to be something like 34 years old on fight night. If you look at the films, he doesn't move as well as he used to. It's almost impossible to move as well as Manny Pacquiao did 3, 4, and 5 years ago. If you see a Manny Pacquiao fight from when Pacquiao weighed 135 or less, you're going to be shocked at the spring in his step versus his legs against Timothy Bradley, right? It's truly shocking. While Pacquiao is still a superior athlete, while he's still an above average athlete, the real question is whether he's still Manny Pacquiao. Let me make another point too. They say power is the last to go. Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, is one of the harder punchers in the sport. But without the framing, without the ability to catch someone off guard, as he has in the past, it might surprise some people that Manny Pacquiao has not gotten a knockout in the last 3 years. I encourage everyone to look up his record. He's gotten knockdowns in fights. Shane Mosley went down. But understand, if you look at Manny Pacquiao in his recent fights, you're going to see not just the lack of the legs that he once had, right? And understand, he still has above average legs, but this is almost like when Ali lost his legs. The Ali of the 1970s didn't have the legs of the Ali of the 1960s. I would argue that Manny Pacquiao 2012 doesn't have the legs of Manny Pacquiao 2008, right? Well, Manny Pacquiao, because he's not able to jump around and then spring in with that straight left hand, hasn't been getting the knockouts. Timothy Bradley went 12 rounds. Shane Mosley went 12 rounds. Juan Manuel Marquez went 12 rounds. Do the math, look at the years. 3 years is a long time to go without a knockout in a fight in which Manny Pacquiao is on record as saying he needs a knockout to win the fight. All right, let's go further. Technicians. You know, technicians age better than athletes. Just ask Roy Jones. I don't want to be too hard on Roy, but Roy never had the technique that a Bernard Hopkins had, his contemporary. So while Roy Jones, a great athlete, was able to beat Bernard Hopkins back in the 90s, Roy Jones didn't come close to beating Bernard Hopkins today, right? Older technicians, because they're relying on angles, because they set up the game in advance, right? Where they are relative to you, the spacing, the angles, what you're going to throw, how they're going to block it. Because they have thought through the technique beforehand, you'd be surprised how many successful technicians remain in the sport, right? Bernard Hopkins, Evander Holyfield, all I'll say is he's the one who set the blueprint up on how to beat Nikolai Valuev, a fight he won, in my opinion, and got robbed. Understand, the history of the heavyweight division would have been different had the judges picked the right fighter. In my opinion, at the end of that Valuev-Holyfield fight, he would have had the crown again. Then we would have had interesting matches, because I think style-wise, he's the kind of fighter who would give even a Vladimir Klitschko a hard time, right? Vitaly Klitschko. Sergio Martinez, right? Sergio Martinez just beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. If you look at the fight, understand there is a method to Martinez's madness. He comes in at a side angle. He's able to drop his hands because he knows you're too far away from him to hit him. He gets to spots. He gets off a jab. He keeps you from holding on to him. He dictates where the fight is happening. He's bobbing and weaving his body, making sure that you're always out of sync, right? He's a technician. Antonio Tarver, who recently beat Danny Green for the Cruiserweight title. Understand the fighters I've just named, Holyfield, Hopkins, Vitaly, Sergio Martinez, and Antonio Tarver, are all 37 years old or older, right? Technicians age better than athletes. Here's how I see this fight, right? I think that Pacquiao's legs are not what they once were. I think that Pacquiao's stamina is not what it once was. I think Pacquiao will be extremely dangerous in the first 4 rounds of this fight. I think he has a chance at a knockout, quite frankly. Right? He's that much faster than Juan Manuel Marquez. But I believe that if he doesn't get that KO in, let's give him a little bit more time than the first 4 rounds. If he doesn't get the KO in the first 6 rounds of this fight, I think he loses, I'd like to say, again, to Juan Manuel Marquez. Because Marquez has figured out the angles, and the problem with Manny Pacquiao, I've said it in too many videos, is from distance. Manny Pacquiao can only knock you out with a straight left hand. He's a southpaw, right? If you have that left hand blocked, Manny Pacquiao has to walk inside to be effective. And when he walks inside against a technician like a Juan Manuel Marquez, Marquez literally has him walking into power shots. Marquez is not even keeping him off of him with a, jab or a straight right hand. He literally has Pacquiao time to the point where he has Pacquiao walking into right hooks. Okay, that's when you know a guy's completely timed. Let me also say this too, and I've said it in too many videos. Very few guys in the sport can fight inside. Manny Pacquiao is not one of them. He's not going to pull an Andre Ward, jump inside, stay on your chest, just riddle you and give you the business for 12 rounds. He's not Andre Ward. He's not Timothy Bradley, right? These guys literally are so inside that their allegations that they're headbutting and stuff like that, they're not. It's just that opponents are so unaccustomed to having a dude up on their chest for a prolonged period in a fight that the heads will clash. There'll be problems, right? Manny Pacquiao's not that fighter. When Manny Pacquiao jumps inside, and he's good at angles, He'll throw a combination, then he gets back out. Right? He's not a guy who can leverage his youth. Marquez is 38 years old. He's not a guy who can leverage his youth, say, okay, let's make this a phone book fight. Come inside like Roberto Duran and just waste you inside. He's not that guy. So, this fight literally comes down to early in the fight, when Marquez is excruciatingly slow. Right? Take a look at the first Marquez-Juan Diaz fight. You're going to see Marquez gets roughed up in that fight early because he's very slow. He's a technician, but he's very slow. Right? When Marquez is very slow and trying to figure out the angles, Manny Pacquiao has a chance to do what he did in fights 1 and 2, where he knocked Marquez down. But what I want people to do is take a look at that second fight. You're going to see Pacquiao threw that knockdown punch from an almost impossible angle, because Marquez had literally started closing the angles at which Pacquiao could throw that straight left hand. Pacquiao does not have, and I know this is going to be controversial, Pacquiao does not have the lead hook. Unorthodox fighters will use 2, Canelo and Floyd Mayweather. Right? In fact, we'll use 3, Vladimir Klitschko. Right? Unorthodox fighters. Right? They'll literally, if you block their power hand, they have a brutal lead left hook that can take you out. One of my favorite fights, Canelo against Carlos Baldomir. Canelo hits him with a left hook. Baldomir is unconscious before he hits the canvas. So if I'm fighting Canelo, a right-handed fighter, I can't focus on the right hand, because while I'm looking at the right hand, dude can knock me out with the left hook. Right? It's a big problem. You want another left hook fight? Vladimir Klitschko against Ray Austin. Right? Austin's looking at Klitschko's right hand, which is lethal. Klitschko takes him out with the lead left hook. Right? So you're fighting a guy who you know has one-punch knockout power. And you're looking here, then you're looking here, then you're kind of like on your back foot. You don't know what to do. Juan Manuel Marquez fighting Manny Pacquiao is just going to be looking at the straight left. Pacquiao does have a right hook. He can only throw it when he's right up on you. Right? So that's too late when you're fighting Juan Manuel Marquez, because he's going to look at the straight left. He's going to have that blocked. Pacquiao won't be able to knock him out. Pacquiao's going to have to then start following him around the ring, because Pacquiao, quite frankly, has more problems with fighters who can fight on their back foot than he does fighters who fight on their front foot. So Eric Morales, another technician, beats Pacquiao the first time behind a jab on his back foot. Juan Manuel Marquez knows the way you beat Manny Pacquiao is not by coming forward against him, it's by going backwards. Manny Pacquiao literally will follow him like a puppy all the way around the ring. I like Pacquiao by KO. I believe his best chance of a KO is in the first half of the fight. Straddled against Pacquiao by KO, straddled against Juan Manuel Marquez, who should be the underdog, to win the fight. Since Pacquiao did not get a KO in the third fight, or even a knockdown, I believe you're going to get better than even money odds on that. And since Marquez officially hasn't won any of their 3 fights, I believe Marquez to win should be better than even money. That's the straddle I would play. If I'm going to round bet it, I would have Pacquiao rounds 1 to 6. The rest, I'd have Marquez. That's how I see it. Now, we're online. You know I try to keep it as real as possible. I'm not a member of the mainstream press. I consider myself a boxing outsider, right? Let's talk about a subject that needs to be talked about in reference to this fight. I don't believe personally that Manny Pacquiao is juicing. I really have no information on it. Let me also point out too that I think the whole idea of juicing is a bit dated, because now people who really know what's going on understand that they can get your body to overproduce HGH without giving you HGH, right? I think people in the know understand that traditional oil-based steroids or even water-based steroids are actually blasé these days. There are ways you can give guys substances and the guy's body is gonna literally produce performance-enhancing substances on its own, right? Yes, I believe supplementation is rampant, in my opinion, in the sport. But I have no information that Manny Pacquiao or Juan Manuel Marquez is taking anything illegal. But let's address this issue head on for both fighters, since both have nutritionists who some find controversial. Alex Ariza and Angel Heredia, right? Now let me just say this, and I'm sure some of the people watching this video have juiced in the past or have at least taken supplements in the past, maybe andro, maybe NAC, who knows. Well, let's just say this. When you first juice, you get big gains, huge gains. You're yourself plus, let's say, another 25% of yourself, right? In other words, it's a positive. Your performance is enhanced. But then what happens after you juice for a while? And we've seen this with athletes like admitted juicers, like Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, right? Is that you then start having injuries. There comes a time when your body compensates for the juice, whatever it is, right? And so what you have are guys who literally will have their bodies breaking down on them, right? If your body has too much testosterone, if your testosterone epitestosterone ratio is too out of whack, at first you're going to be a superhero. But after a while, your body's going to compensate. And you're going to start getting pulled muscles in obscure places. Under your underarm, or you'll be lifting weights, a bicep might just blow up. You'll be someplace, you'll start getting cramps, right? Because your body's not ready for the muscle mass. And the cramps will be severe. It'll feel like someone has shot you. Not only that, there's a flip side to juicing and then feeling on top of the world at certain times, because understand, juicing is a cycle. It's not like I pop a pill and suddenly I'm ready fight night and I'm ready to go. No, it's a cycle. I have to cycle the right way so that on fight night I'm there. Well, what happens is your body starts changing the cycle on you. And sometimes at the time of the event when you want to perform, your body's not there. You feel dead in the water. Now let me just say this. If either of these fighters, and again, I have no evidence whatsoever, I don't believe either of these guys is juicing. At least that's what I'm saying on tape here, right? Don't draw an inference that either of these guys is juicing. But because juicing happens in professional athletics, let's speculate about the possibility. A guy who has been juicing for years, in my opinion, my unscientific opinion, just based on watching sports, has more of a possibility of getting injured in the ring. And the injury will be obscure. As I said before, torn underarm muscle, torn pec muscle, some muscle tearing, or getting sore, or getting sprained, that the average person with a body that's all natural wouldn't have. Now, if you look at this fight, and if you believe that these two fighters, the youngest of whom is 34, that one guy might have been juicing for a long time. I'm not saying they did, but if you believe they did, if you believe one guy has been juicing for several years, and if you believe the other guy might have just started juicing, well, let me just say, the guy who has just started juicing might still be in that superhero phase that comes with just starting to juice. In other words, you first start to take performance enhancers, you'll feel on top of the world. It's when you it's like smoking cigarettes, right? Early on, you say, wow, great. Later on, you're saying, what am I doing? I feel lousy, right? If one of these fighters recently started juicing, my point is simply that fighter's going to feel on top of the world. If another of these fighters has been juicing for years, then that fighter is not going to feel on top of the world. That fighter might feel like someone who started smoking years ago and is still smoking and feels that they have to keep smoking to get the effect. Okay, so I'll just throw that out there. Let me segue into another fight briefly. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., according to reports, has tested positive for marijuana. Now, I'll just say this. You can test positive for marijuana if you just go to a concert and the people around you are smoking marijuana. We're going to have to find out more information about how much marijuana was found in his system. But let me tell you how it relates really to boxing, what concerns us. It's just that whatever leverage Chavez Jr. got by knocking down Sergio Martinez in the 12th round of their recent fight, whatever leverage he would have had to force a rematch with Sergio Martinez, or to even credibly campaign for a rematch with Sergio Martinez, has just been thrown out the window. Okay, you test positive for drugs, especially after a lackluster athletic event where you look terrible for the first 11 rounds of the fight, and sport fans are just not going to take you seriously. They're going to say, wow, you were out smoking before the first fight. You look like crap in the first fight. Why should I pay my hard-earned $59.99 to watch you do this again? After all, you didn't win the first fight. Not only that, you didn't even take the first fight seriously enough to show up clean and ready. Right? And so the sad thing with the Chavez Jr. story is really the fact that he's hurt his credibility. Right? He calls out anyone, they can ignore him at this point. There are too many big names at 160 pounds. Now, don't get me wrong. He'll still be in the mix because he's a box office draw. But Sergio Martinez, who already has said that he's not interested in fighting Chavez Jr. in a rematch in Texas because, and this was before the drug test result, because of Texas's lax enforcement of drug tests after fights. And keep in mind, Chavez Jr. fought in Texas and then no one showed up to take a drug test after the fight. Because of that history, Martinez said, hey, I'm not inclined to fight Chavez Jr. in a rematch in Texas. Well, now he can ignore Chavez Jr. altogether, because Chavez Jr. looks like a guy who, quite frankly, might have other problems, right? And so really, I think for Chavez Jr., he's going to have to spend time now, whatever happens in front of the Nevada State Athletic Commission regarding his purse, he's going to have to spend time now, getting back his reputation And that's going to take a few fights, right? I mean, that's the tragedy of the positive drug test. Let me hear from you. Let me hear what you think. I'm sure I'm going to hear that, many disagree with me concerning the Pacquiao fight. Fair enough, but I'll just say this. I believe a pattern has emerged since Manuel was knocked down. Juan Manuel Marquez was knocked down in the second fight. When he gets up after being knocked down in that second fight, since that point forward, quite frankly, I feel he's won more rounds than Manny Pacquiao. All I can say is Manny Pacquiao really has taken a big step back. The more these two fight, the more convincing the advantage Juan Manuel Marquez has. Yeah, it's really reached a point where it doesn't even look like Manny Pacquiao can hurt Juan Manuel Marquez, right? And Marquez is able to, because he's a technician, fight backing up without ending up on the ropes. He knows how to circle in the middle of the ring. And Manny Pacquiao cannot break the pattern. Even his corner, Freddie Roach, is saying Pacquiao's not following what I'm telling him to do. I believe it's because he can't. There's a rhythm. Once Marquez blocks that straight left from distance, Manny Pacquiao is trying to set up angles where he can throw other punches, and Marquez, spacing-wise, is not allowing him to do that. Then when he comes in, Marquez has a lead left jab. Marquez has a right hand, and he's throwing right hooks. When you see him hitting Manny Pacquiao flush, like he did several times in that third fight, that tells me that he knows Manny Pacquiao very well. He knows how to offset Pacquiao's athletic advantage. I like Pacquiao by KO straddle against Marquez simply to win the fight. I believe you get better than even money on both of those props. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com and DwyerBoxingNews.com. Thanks for watching.